Resident Evil.
Resident Evil Code Veronica X is the remake of, surprise surprise, Resident Evil Code Veronica for the Dreamcast. I decided to play this version of the game because it just plays better. But let's move on. Code Veronica's story is set 3 months after the events of Resident Evil 2 and sees the return of Claire Redfield. Hooray! We join Claire on Rockford Island, a prison island run by Umbrella. She ended up there after being caught infiltrating the Umbrella HQ in Paris. But don't worry, Claire won't have to spend much time in her cell since she is released right away as an unnamed group attacks the compound. As it is tradition in Resident Evil games, Claire has to learn that the island is overrun by zombies and other monstrosities. Oh look, it's our old friend the Hunter!
Look at this dude!
And there are new fiends too.
What the fuck is that?
To find a way off the island, Claire has to fight her way through these hordes of enemies, and she has to reach new areas by solving puzzles. On a side note, I really enjoyed this 3D printer puzzle. Resident Evil used 3D printers before it was cool. Claire will visit an underwater research facility and a creepy palace. At this palace, she will run into one of the game's antagonists, Alfred. He is a member of the Ashford family, one of the founding parties of Umbrella. He's kinda weird.
I so want to enjoy this.
And has this whole Norman Bates thing going on with his sister Alexia. Luckily, Claire isn't alone in her fight for survival. During her time on the island, she will run into the young man Steve Burnside. He too seems to have some issues.
You'll just end up disappointed if you rely on others. Believe me, I know.
What was that all about?
Some fighting and puzzling later, Claire and Steve escape Rockford Island via plane, just to be stopped by a tyrant. Gosh, those guys are worse than the Grim Reaper, I swear. Claire sends the stowaway packing and everything seems great, until Alfrexia hijacks their plane remotely and crash lands them in an Umbrella facility in the Antarctica. Claire's fight for survival continues, but she manages to thank Alfred for his hospitality. She and Steve escape in a truck, just for the real Alexia Ashford to show up and to foil their plans. But is that the end of the game? No, this is just part 1. Part 2 introduces the second main character of the game, Chris Redfield. Oh, it feels great to see him again. Chris travels to Rockford Island to save Claire, but only runs into Albert Wesker.
Still alive?
That's right, that asshole is back too. New and improved. And that's not all. Wesker is still pissed at Chris for foiling his plans by killing the original tyrant. Chris now has to make his way to the Antarctica base too. Here he learns more about the shady dealings of the Ashford family. They created the so-called T-Veronica virus, an even nastier and more powerful version of the T-virus. Oh, and Alexia injected herself with that stuff too. Chris eventually ends up in a replica of the Spencer mansion from the first game. Why did the Ashfords build a mansion under the Antarctica? Because that's what rich evil people do. But I gotta say, that's a nice callback to the first game. Chris saves Claire and the siblings are finally reunited, just to be separated again. Claire bumps into Steve again, who got infected with the Veronica virus. He has a change of heart though and sacrifices himself for Claire. Chris on the other hand has to deal with a mutated Alexia. And I have to be honest, that may be my favorite boss fight in the whole series. Chris blows Alexia to bits and the siblings make their daring escape, just for Wesker to show up to kick Chris's ass. He does let him go though, because he's afraid of fire, I guess. The Redfields eventually escape and the game ends with another glorious line.
Yeah, it's payback time. We've got to destroy Umbrella. Now.
I have to say, this is a pretty good game, even though it doesn't bring anything new to the table gameplay-wise. But the game did win me over with its story and characters. I love the idea of the Ashford family being the antagonists, even though the siblings seem to have kind of a weird relationship. Sadly, just like Resident Evil 3, Code Veronica plays more like an action game than a horror game. The only time I got the creeps was a short stint in the Ashford's private residence. And come on, that place is creepy as heck. I also have to mention the battle mode, which gets unlocked after you beat the game, but I have to be honest, I only played it for a couple of seconds since I'm not a big fan of time trials. So what's my personal rating? I'll give Resident Evil Code Veronica 8 out of 10 sexy mutants.